Okay, good evening everybody and welcome to this meeting of Cheltenham Borough Council's miscellaneous licensing subcommittee, which is being held today, Wednesday, that's Thursday, isn't it? Yeah, Thursday the 11th of July. Sorry, our meetings are usually on a Wednesday, so it's all right. It was moved for the general election. So my name is Councillor Dr. David Willingham. I am Chair of the Licensing Committee. So the meeting this evening is being live streamed to Cheltenham Borough Council's YouTube channel, and the recording of the meeting will be held for 4 years. If there are any breaks in the transmission to the YouTube stream, the meeting will be adjourned for a short period until any technical issues are resolved. To the public present, if you are here to make a representation, you are consenting to the use of sound and video recordings for broadcasting and training purposes. Please also be aware that CCTV and audio recording is now in operation in the public gallery, and those recordings will be held by the Council for 5 months. A fire alarm test is not expected. If the fire alarm does sound, you should immediately make your way outside the building via the nearest exit, which are signed with the green signs there and there. And finally, if you have a mobile phone or an electronic device, such as a laptop, that makes pinging sounds or what have you, could you put it onto silent or mute it so that it doesn't disturb the meeting? Right, agenda item 1 is apologies. So we have received apologies from Councillor Boyes and Councillor Sankey, and we have Councillor Harvey and Councillor Pinniger as substitutes. Item 2, declarations of interest. Does any member have any declarations of interest? No. So I need to make a declaration of interest in agenda item 4, which is the first substantive item. In my role as a county councillor, I have assisted Rowanfield School, who have raised complaints about the applicant in that case, because of the Human Rights Act right to a fair hearing, because that you clearly cannot be a complainant and a judge in the same matter. I will be recusing myself as a prejudicial interest, so I won't be present for that, and Councillor Wheeler will be chairing that part of the meeting. Agenda item 3 is public questions. There are none, and so we now move to agenda item 4. So there will be a slight hiatus while I swap over with I leave and Councillor Wheeler takes the chair.
Right, because this is a regulatory item, members must be present and have heard the proceedings in their entirety to vote on the item. We will ensure that the applicant and the applicant's representative, if they have one, are present in the meeting. I will then ask the licensing officer to introduce the report. Members will get the opportunity to ask licensing officer questions. The applicant or their representative, if present, will get to the opportunity to ask the licensing officer questions. The objector will be given the opportunity to speak. We ask you to limit your time to 10 minutes. I don't know if we do have one. The applicant or their representative will be given the opportunity to present their application or make their case, and we will ask them to try and keep their representations to 10 minutes. Members can then ask the applicant questions Then members will debate the matter. The applicant will be given the final right of reply, and then I will read the resolution and we will vote on. We will then go to the vote. So, firstly, I would like to ask the licensing officer to present the case, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Kirkwood. I'm the licensing team leader. The licensing authority has received 4 applications from Mr. Bambashona for street trading consents for 4 ice cream vans to operate in the Cheltenham Borough area, to operate across the whole borough area. The hours applied for are Monday to Sunday, midday until 7 o'clock in the evening, and images of the unit are attached to the report. Members are here this evening to consider the application and any submissions by the applicant, and will decide whether to grant the application if they feel that any concerns raised about the application by way of the objections are lessened or of less concern on the basis of the application and any representations tonight, or refuse the application if members believe that they should do that in relation to our policy and on the basis of the objection or on the basis of the objections that have been made. The council does have a street trading policy which was last adopted on the 11th of February 2020, and a link to that was provided in the report. The street trading policy scheme basically aims to control the location of traders and the numbers of street traders that we have in the Cheltenham area. The scheme also aims to prevent unnecessary obstruction of the highway, sustain established shopkeepers, maintain the quality of the landscape and add value to the town, and encouraging inward investment. So there's a balance there between some issues that may well bring something to the table and some issues that may be of concern, say for example related to things like public safety. So there's a little bit of a balance there that we see with street trading. In considering these applications, the authority recognises the importance of licensed business to the local economy and the character of the area, while trying to ensure that activities do not cause public or statutory nuisance to the people in the area. This policy will guide the authority when we make decisions. The policy itself sets out some assessment criteria, which I think it should be noted probably aren't the sole considerations that the licensing authority will consider, but they're some of the most regular or some of the most substantive. So we're looking at the needs of the area, the retail offer of each individual. In this case, it's not a pitch, obviously it's a unit that would move around the borough. The goods should complement and do not conflict with goods sold by other established traders. This criterion permits the authority to undertake a qualitative assessment of the goods to be sold. It should be noted that I think in the area we have one other street trading consent that's granted to a different ice cream van, but obviously in the past this particular operator has had different consents in the area previously. Public nuisance is obviously something that's talked about through the report. We also look at public safety, the appearance of the stall or vehicle, and environmental credentials. And again, that's something else that's been mentioned by the environmental health officer. Environmental protection refer to some complaints that they've had previously in relation to the operation in 2023, as well as a second noise complaint in June 2024, stating that this seemed to demonstrate a lack of noise control, and it does seem that some of those complaints were out of season, although what the weather was like at that particular time, and obviously the way the weather's been this year, we have had very much ups and downs in that respect. The environmental health officer has not raised this as an objection, but they do want to raise these concerns, and they want them to be taken seriously by the operator, whether they have a consent, if they were to be granted a consent. And obviously it's something that members need to be aware of this evening. Further comments were received by a second environmental health officer regarding air quality, and that's something that you've just been given a copy of this evening, so apologies that you've only been given that just now. And members have also got a copy of that. There are some concerns that are expressed there, but there is also a condition that's suggested to mitigate those concerns to an extent. The applicant, as we're proceeding through this, may well obviously want to consider whether that's something that they find acceptable or whether they would want to tweak that condition to be able to reach a point where they felt it was something that they could live with if the consent was to be granted. In addition, the licensing enforcement team itself has received complaints that 3 separate vehicles were not licensed and did not have a consent and were actually working in the area. There's obviously some detail provided, and that's attached to the report, and that's obviously something that members may wish to ask some questions on this evening to consider consider the operator's view on those things. The subcommittee must determine this application with a view to promoting the council's adopted policy and should not arbitrarily depart from it. Members are reminded that clear and thorough reasons should be given for decisions made by the committee. It's fair to say that we haven't got any objections from local residents. We haven't got any objections from other local businesses, but we do have the representations and the concerns that have been raised. And obviously, I think that's where the focus of this hearing will be this evening. And it's fair to say that obviously, up front and centre with that is the issue of noise. If a consent is granted, we have special conditions for mobile ice cream traders, which are included in our street trading policy. That street trading policy then links into a code of practice in relation to the control of noise for ice cream vans. And that's something, although it's not attached to the report, it is something that I can expand on if anyone does want to raise any questions on that. Just as an example, that code of practice says that chimes should not be sounded before noon, and they should not be sounded after 7 p.m. It also says that those chimes shouldn't be played for longer than a particular period, and they should be only played at certain occasions whilst that person is effectively on their round. Those things are there to try and limit the impact of noise and to give an operator, if they follow that, it gives them what's called best reasonable means as a defence against any potential allegation that they were causing a statutory nuisance. So it's there as some guidance for an operator, and if they follow that, then they've got a good defence under any potential complaint that might be linked to statutory nuisance. I've just raised that because obviously it provides a bit more clarification around some of the issues that have been raised in the report. There is an officer recommendation in the report, and as I said, that does really sort of focus on the issues related to air quality, but there is a condition that's been proposed there, so members should bear that in mind. And obviously there are concerns about apparent or alleged failure to comply with advice or conditions in the past. And that's obviously something where the applicant will need to really convince members that that shouldn't be something that they need to be worried about. And that's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any members have questions of the licensing officer? No? Okay, I'll move on then. Does the applicant have any questions of the licensing officer? No questions. Okay then. We haven't got an objector here, so I can't give them the opportunity to speak. Sorry, Councillor Pinniger.
Hi. Could the applicant and his friend introduce themselves? I don't know who.
Yes, I'm the Shauner. That's William Capstick.
Okay, a representative.
Mr. Shawn is the policy holder, or in the past policy holder, who made the applications.
I'm the one who's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I help him manage the ice cream vans.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Right. Mr. Bamburgh or your representative if you would like to present your case, and I would ask you to try and
That one? Hello? Okay.
okay, if you'd like to make your case, and if you could keep it to within 10 minutes, please.
What did he say?
If you want to just give a bit of background on,
Sorry?
give a bit of background on
Me?
your business, yeah.
Yes. Can I stand up? Is that all right? Sorry?
You may stand up if you wish, but we won't insist on it.
Okay. I don't need a microphone. Okay. Sorry?
You'll have to use it.
Will I? Oh, can I speak now?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Bamba Shauna. I'm a Sheltonian. I'm proud of it. I've lived here all my life, 72 years. And for 30 years, I've been doing the ice cream vans. Okay? I had started with 1, then 2, then 3, then last year we had 4. And about 15 years ago, I met this wonderful gentleman here who became my business partner. Okay? And that's how it is. I'm involved in other things, and he basically he runs a business. But I absolutely love being an ice cream man. It's one of our great English traditions. Going back 5 years ago, I don't know if you'll remember when it was COVID, and it took an hour and a half to go and get a loaf of bread from the supermarkets. What we did, we started delivering, give me the newspaper, Will. We started delivering food to all the people. I was in the front page of the Echo. I don't know if any of you can see it. Okay? And it cost me money. I didn't really worry about that because we had to pay our staff. I had to put diesel in the vehicles. We couldn't charge more for the items we were selling because they're already stamped on there. We used to buy them from Booker's. But it wasn't about money. It was about trying to do a good deed for the community. Okay? Also, I just think that an ice cream van will always put a smile on people's faces. Well, most people. It's a wonderful thing. It's not, you don't have to have an ice cream. It's a treat. And as soon as people hear the chimes, psychologically, even if it's pouring with rain, they think it's summer. That's how it is. I'm a very generous person. Many times when I used to do the rounds, and 4 boys would come to my ice cream van, 3 of them would buy an ice cream, and the other one didn't have an ice cream. And he was sitting on the wall looking down like that, and I said, "Why are you not having an ice cream?" He said, "I've got no money." I said, "Are you allowed an ice cream?" He said, "Yeah, but I've got no money." I said, "Come here." And I gave him the biggest ice cream, because one of the wonderful things about life, that it's free, and that's kindness. And that's what I like to believe I am. And all my staff, I tell them the same. We messed up on the license. My apologies for that. It won't ever happen again. As for complaints about chimes and things like that, we do train our staff, and we say, don't play it too loud, and sometimes they don't listen to what we've said. We've had, I believe, 8 complaints in 6 years, which, all right, that's not good, but I don't think that's too bad. 8 complaints in 6 years, that's 1 a year. And that's it. You will always get people to complain. Once my ice cream vans went to they didn't realise it was a private road, and this woman came out and said, "Can you move on, please? We don't want your sort here. It's a private road." And my driver got in the seat to go off, and someone banged on the window, and it was somebody wanting ice cream. And before you knew it, there was 20 people in the queue wanting ice cream. They said, "Don't take any notice of her. She's always miserable." But that's how it is. Anyone wants to ask me anything you want. But like I said, we made a genuine mistake with the licenses. I do apologise sincerely. It won't happen again. And we'd love to. We have children's parties to do at the end of this month and in August, where we go to their houses and little boys celebrate their birthday, 7, 8 years old. And we go there and serve we supply the service. We sell the ice cream to the little children. You know, all I'm asking you people is, if you have a little bit of human compassion, if you want to punish me anything, any way you want. But please do not punish my staff. They are wonderful people and they want to go out and work and earn money. You know, you all know this. Half the people now, they don't want to work. And I got 7, 8 people who are out there, they want to work, and they've been at home since, you know, we stopped work in the vans. They want to go on holiday, they've got no money. Tell me, ask me anything you want. Anyone here. I've got nothing more to say, but thank you for listening to me.
If you'd like to switch your microphone off.
Sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine.
Is that okay, sir? Thank you.
Yeah, if I
Yes,
could
if
maybe
you-
just
you-
talk a little bit about the complaints that we've received and what we're looking to do to sort of hope this doesn't happen again. I'll just say we have taken the complaints very seriously. Starting off with some additional staff training we carried out once we received these complaints. So you mentioned before, part of the licence we receive a list of special conditions for the ice cream drivers. Things like roads that we're not allowed to operate down, how far away from the school we need to park, and there's another sheet also about playing the chimes. So we have these laminated and put up in all the ice cream vans. I've got a training sheet here, which has been signed by all our drivers, saying that they have received copies of these, they fully understand them, and they are going to stick to the rules set out in this document. As well as that, I have introduced a third sheet, which we have laminated up on the ice cream vans, called School Rules. These are additional rules that we implement just to make sure we're extra safe when we're outside schools. Number one, which we've put in this year due to the sort of mistakes we had with our application not being valid at the time. Rule number one, do not trade outside of school or anywhere in Cheltenham unless you can see a valid street trader consent certificate displayed in your van. If a certificate is not shown, it could mean your vehicle does not have consent to trade anywhere within Cheltenham. That's rule number one. Rule number two, remember you must park at least 75 metres away from the school gate. Please refer to the photographs supplied that clearly show 75-metre minimum. Do not park any closer than the markers on the photographs. And what we have done, I did this with all our staff, we visited every school that we trade at. We've taken photos of where is a safe place for the ice cream van to park. So we've got Ben Hall Infant School, Springbank, Rowanfield. So six schools that we trade at. There was a 7th school that was St. Greg's. When we visited it, we realised that there probably wasn't a safe place to trade from. So we've now decided not to visit that school because it's, like I say, unsafe. The next rules are, again, going back to the chimes. I've explained this to the drivers. There's no reason for you to be playing your chimes outside of school. People can see you. You're very visible. You're in a big ice cream van. If you play your chimes, it's just going to antagonise children who, for whatever reason, can't have an ice cream. The next rule, again, which comes up about the air pollution. As soon as we get to the school, we park up, we turn our engines off. There's no reason for our engines to be running unless we're serving ice cream. And that's normally 10, 15 minutes our engine should be on for. I think in the past, some drivers have parked up and just left the engines running. But this is something we're going to be really hot on. again, for the obvious reasons, it's harmful for the public, it's harmful for the environment, and not to mention the noise and the wasted fuel. And then finally, just make sure you are complying with traffic regulations relating to where you can and cannot park. So this is what we've implemented so we can sort of trade safely outside of schools. I was just reading the piece of paper that was given to me about the environmental health suggestions. And to be fair, some of them we already do. I won't find where it went. There was a mention of parking more than 75 metres away. And you'll see on some of the schools, we do. I think it's Rowanfield, we park 110 metres. And Ben Hall, we park 175 metres away from the school. There's also another suggestion that we shouldn't visit schools too often. And we don't. We do try only to visit a school once a week, maybe twice a week if the demand is there. Again, because of the pollution, because of the noise, and also because, as a man with young children, I don't want to be buying ice creams more than once a week for my children because it's expensive and it's not healthy. So we do try to limit how often we go to schools. I think that sort of covers what the complaints were mostly about. But yeah, we are doing what we can to make sure that our drivers are fully trained and that this sort of thing doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think those regulations, I think most of those regulations you were talking about are ones that you've set rather than ones that we've set on your behalf, yes? So that is really helpful. I'm sorry, there was a question I meant to ask of officers before we got here. I asked members if they wanted and I forgot about myself. The frequency at which and positions, etc., where chimes can be sounded, so sort of how often and yeah, how often, I know for how long, and I think it says once per street, but what do you class as a street?
Just bear with me a sec. There's two things in the mix. So first of all, there are the special conditions for mobile ice cream traders, which will give us a list of roads, most of which are either commercial areas or the majority of them are actually schools or where there is a school located. And there's a limit that those street trading is prohibited in those roads. Trading is prohibited within 75 metres of the gates of certain schools. Bourneside is a slightly bigger distance than that. The trader shouldn't trade at a particular location for more than 30 minutes and should not return to the immediate vicinity or the same location within 2 hours. The trader must comply with traffic regs, rules, orders and directions in relation to public highways. And they must comply with the code of practice on noise from ice cream van chimes in England 2013. That is a separate, obviously, government code of practice, which I'm sure the guidance that the applicant gives to their drivers. That goes into quite a lot more detail, and as I've mentioned before, this code of practice is there to help businesses such as this to comply or to not impact adversely on the community in terms of noise. So some of the things that are in there: no chimes should be operated which produce a noise level in any direction of more than 80 decibels, or an LA max at 80 decibels. There's some clarification on that. Care should be taken to avoid distortion of chimes. We've obviously all heard that before, not with this particular operator, but where you get chimes and they're distorted, that can be particularly intrusive. Then we've got, obviously I'm not going to read the whole document. Playing time, the passage of music played should not last more than 12 seconds. Ideally, there should be a cutout ideally. The frequency of chimes is obviously a crucial point. The chime should be played only once on the approach to each stopping place or selling point, only once when the van is stationary, and never at intervals of less than 2 minutes. So put simply, whilst the van's arriving, the tune can ring. Once I'm sat there, I can ring, but there should be a 2-minute gap between that in any event. It shouldn't be played in sight of another van, whether moving or stationary, so you shouldn't have, not that I've ever seen that before, I don't think, but you shouldn't have competing chimes. And they should only be, in any event, they should only be played as often as is necessary. Use of chimes in sensitive areas, they shouldn't be played in areas where people may be especially sensitive to sound. So hospitals, not within 50 metres. School, during school hours, not within 50 metres. Obviously, that's covered by our conditions which enhance that. Or places of worship or places such as that, particularly on a Sunday or any other recognised day of worship. Put in summary, no longer than 12 seconds for chimes, not more than once every 2 minutes, more than once when the vehicle is stationary, not more than once when the vehicle is stationary, except once on approach, and yeah, those other points I've just made. So yeah, and it is an offence to sound your chimes before 12 noon or after 7 p.m. in the evening, or any time when it gives reasonable cause for annoyance. And that's where the code of practice kicks in, because that tells you what reasonable cause for annoyance would be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any member have questions of the applicant? Yes.
For whatever reason, I'm on this microphone because that's where I logged in. Really just to ask, it's great you've put lots of things in place, I can see. What sanction would you impose on a driver who then, for some reason, still commits an offence against one of your regulations, you know, parks too close to the school or idles too long?
Something that we haven't felt necessary before, which we are going to implement if we are granted our licence, is more thorough monitoring of the drivers. This might involve either me or Bambus just having to drive round where we know a van's going to be, just making sure that they are operating as they should. We're also in discussions with someone about getting trackers fitted in the van so we can keep an eye on where the vans go. If we were to find that people were sort of breaking these laws, which I'm hoping won't happen because they've all been very thoroughly trained since the complaints came to light. But we would maybe look at a warning system, maybe some additional training, and then because the majority of the issues seem to be in the same sort of area, if the driver is in that area a lot, we would then look at maybe removing them from that area and just getting them to work in a different part of the town. Maybe asking them not to park outside schools. It would kind of depend on the nature of the complaint.
Richard again.
I think my questions rely on industry knowledge, really. I'm wondering, we are living in the future, and pollution is more and more of a concern. We are the authority for the air quality in Cheltenham, and these vehicles, can you confirm how old they are, how much they're worth, and what a new one would cost to replace them? Because
our ice cream vans, we have them insured around the value of £20,000 each. They're all around 20, I think 24 years old. If you're wanting to have a look at a more modern ice cream van, they are over £100,000 each now. So yeah, so sort of our four put together wouldn't give us enough to buy one new one.
So following on from that then, obviously these are very high value items and you wouldn't want to, scrap them because of the pollution from the engines. Do you know what the industry is doing about that? Is there battery technology now to run the Mr. Whippy machine and the fridges without turning the engine on? Could they be retrofitted?
Yes, that is. I think some of the larger companies in London who, obviously they've got tighter emission rules there, they are developing, I think it's a bit like the modern cars, of big battery packs that are in the back, which will get charged as you're driving around, and then these batteries will then power the Whippy machine. So that is something that we will be looking at some point in the future, but it's very much out of our price range at the moment, I'd have thought. But yeah, hopefully one day that is something we'll look to do.
If I might sort of butt in there, I do think we're going a little bit beyond our remit. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not sure whether we can sort of take the green credentials into consideration at this meeting. What we're looking at is the ability of Mr. Bamber to run his operation with vehicles that are currently acceptable and to move on or accepted by law and to be looking at moving on. I'm sure they would like to move to better vehicles, but I think it's going just a little bit beyond, but please.
One final point then. I think that you're right, but this is decided, part of this is the air quality issues, and we are the Air Quality Authority. But also, just to give an incentive to you, that would mean that some of the conditions that you're probably going to have placed on you could be removed if you weren't running a diesel engine in order to serve ice cream.
Okay, I have just a couple of questions. Firstly, the people actually, your vendors, what's the arrangement between you? Do they work on a franchise or are they actually employees? My first question.
A lot of our drivers do have other jobs. They work on a self-employed basis, whereas they can work as much or as little as they like.
Right, so it's virtually a franchise. I was just wondering what sort of control you have over them and whether, as an employer, you could say, well, you're fired because you're not working to the rules, whereas it would be, and then of course we'd have employment laws for you to be worrying about, whereas the system you're suggesting is that they work for themselves using your vehicles. So, yeah, and you've told us all the information that you're providing them with. That sounds as though you've actually gone a little bit above and beyond what we would be asking. Right. I think we've got... sorry, please, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions that might help the committee. So I think you mentioned you've got 6 or 7 schools that you've got on your round, basically. You've got 4 vehicles. Would it be the case that those 4 vehicles would always be out at the same time, give or take? Or is there any... I'm just trying to get an image in practical terms. If I look at your business on a Monday to Friday, it's a reasonably nice day. What does the pattern of your business look like on those occasions, Monday to Friday, and what does it look like on a Saturday and a Sunday?
Okay, so with the 4 ice cream vans, unless it's 25 degrees in beautiful weather, we don't always get all 4 out operating. I say we've got maybe 6 drivers working for us at the moment, including myself. A couple of them only want to do a couple of days a week. A couple only do Sundays. So we don't have enough staff to have 4 vans out 7 days a week. Probably in the last sort of 4 years, business has dropped a bit. We don't have the vans out 12 till 7 as we are allowed in the licence. We do find the first couple of hours are a bit quieter. So the vans are only really going out from 2 till maybe 7. So yeah, maybe 2-3 vans going out Monday to Friday. Weekends, we do a lot more sort of static work, sort of charity events, fun days, that sort of thing. So again, the amount of time these vans spend out doing neighbourhoods isn't as much as it used to be. So, yeah, if that answers your question.
That's really helpful. Also, what kind of coverage do you have, your firm specifically, with these 4 vans? How much of Cheltenham do you cover, or do you plan to cover, in terms of at least visiting once a week or so?
Well, we try and cover, on a good day, we try and cover as much as we can. If we were having 4 vans out, we split the town into 4. So we kind of have Charlton Kings and Leckhampton as an area, Hatherley, the Reddings as an area, Hester's Way, Springbank, Rowanfield as an area, and Wadden and Prestbury as an area. Due to sort of where we're based and just the experience of our drivers, they find that certain areas are better on better days and things like that. So yeah, each driver has their own area. Like you mentioned before, there's only one other ice cream van who comes to Cheltenham who we know, and he's got a set route where he comes into Cheltenham and we know where he's going to be, so we don't cross paths. So yeah, we try and, again, it's a bit like the schools. You don't want to be going down the same streets every day with your chimes on because it can be annoying. So we do try and cover as much as we can, so we're not going to the same places all the time.
That's really helpful. And the last point isn't a question, really. It's just a comment. It's not obviously something that's been referred to by objectors, but just something picking up on a point you made about some of the work that you're doing to sort of keep track of your drivers a little bit. I'm sure you probably have, but if you haven't, obviously just think about a safeguarding policy maybe, and that might be something, if you are looking at kind of overseeing what your drivers are doing, that might be something that you'd want to be just that checking in that respect. You know, I'm sure the drivers you've got are wonderful and, you know, there's no issues there, but it's something as you as the business operator should just be thinking about and protecting yourself and the business as well as the public from any possible risks. So it's just a thought, and obviously we could provide some advice on that sort of thing. That's it, thanks.
Sorry, just one more half question, half comment. Mr. Bamber commented about someone that gave him grief in a private road. Actually, I don't know the road he was on about, but it was probably a privately maintained rather than a private road. People get that one mixed up. But if you had Mrs. Smith at number 29 Acacia Avenue came out and sort of give you grief, would you actually pass that round the other drivers to say, look, just park a little further up the road? It's not something you're legally obliged to do, but it's just a comment. And if you, for instance, sound your chimes outside Mrs. Smith's house, and then you just go just round the corner, I think that would probably, and then sound your chimes again, I think that probably would be encroaching on. So would you make that comment to your...
Absolutely, yes. I mean, if you go somewhere where people don't want you to be there, you just tell the drivers, when you go to that road, drive 50 metres down the road and don't play the chimes. Just play it for less time. But that only happened once. And like I said, she came out and she was probably having a bad day, I don't know. And before we knew it, we had 20 people waiting for an ice cream.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Right, I think the legal officer wants a quick word with us.
Yeah, what I'd like to do, members, is give you some legal advice just on the application. So what we would like to do is to go into closed session just for the purposes of that legal advice. So it will be for the two applicants. Unfortunately, to leave the chamber, it's probably easier if they leave, and obviously the transmission will just go off for a couple of minutes while I give you that in exempt session. If you're happy for the legal advice, because it's a matter for you,
Right, to people watching on the YouTube feed, we've just had a short break to consult with legal over a few points. So we will now be going to debate. Before we do, another question just popped up. Can I ask how long you've been assisting or been working with Mr. Bamber?
Yeah, about 15 years.
Oh, 15 years. Oh, I thought it was a recent thing. No. Okay. No, that's fine. So does anyone want to start the debate? Okay.
Yeah, just to say that the report says, recommends refusal. I don't feel we've been given sufficient grounds to refuse. There was the contravention of licensing, where they were trading without a license. But it's been explained to us that there are now rules pinned up in the vans explaining if you do not see a license here, then you are not allowed to trade. So that clearly, it sounds to me like that was a training issue more than anything else. And going forward, it'd be very unlikely that they would repeat that. So I'm minded to permit, actually, even though the report recommends refusal.
Do you have it? You haven't got a lot to say. No, that's fine. That's fine. I must admit my views are that initially I was very concerned about rule breaking and non-compliance. However, it does strike me that more recently you've, and this is why I asked how long you've been working with Mr. Bamber, but it seems sort of very much recently you have put together quite a stringent training and monitoring system for your drivers and vendors, which makes me feel more comfortable. Having said that, you know, we've got to say, is this just something you've put on for us, or is this something that will carry forward? So I would sort of suggest that whereas I feel comfortable with you giving you this licence, you must bear in mind that yes, we will be putting you've got the statutory regulations and you've got some additional regulations, and I believe we're probably towards the end of this season we're revisiting the regulations, so those will come into next year, but providing you can adhere to those without concern, and the fact that how can I put it? Your vendors are not, they're actually part of you. So the fact that you're not actually in the van, if they flout the rules, it's doing so in your name. So you know, and if they flout the rules sufficiently that we're not happy, it's you that loses your business. So the way I'm feeling is, I feel confident that we could agree to this licence. I would suggest that some of the legal advice we've had, that we might want to reconsider some of the regulations that we've got down here, and I think that's something that you and the legal team could have a look at, yes? But based on that, I'm happy. Sorry, yes.
One other thing, and that was we've been reminded not to go beyond the conditions that are in the law, the ice cream van law from central government, but also our own policy. Without good reason. But I do like that they are turning their engines off when they're not serving ice cream, and I would like that to be added not as a condition but as a recommendation in the license, if such a thing exists, like a soft condition, one that you know, is there a mechanism for that, recommending?
At my previous council, we used informatives to actually provide clarification about some expectations. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't feel maybe you've got the evidence, or you don't feel you've the sufficient conviction to attach it as a condition, or you don't think you've got the grounds to attach it as a condition, if you're making it as a recommendation, there's nothing to stop you doing that in the decision. But it obviously doesn't have any legal weight. You know, it's there used to be something under the old liquor licensing regime, which was called an undertaking, and that didn't have a legal force, but it would be something that you might find on a liquor license back many years ago, before the Licensing Act 2003. So there's nothing to stop you using that if that's something you want to put into the decision, but it won't have any legal force. That's the only caveat.
Yes, please.
Okay, I would have no objection to that, but at the same time, I think if it's something that the applicant's already considering before we've said it, probably not a great deal of need for it, but fine, if we can put that informative on, I have no objections to that. I think the applicant or his representative now has right for a final right of reply. So if there's anything you'd like to say before we go to the vote, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I don't want to call this a wake-up call, because Bambas has been running the van for 30 years, and like I say, these 8 complaints, they've all come sort of in the last couple of years, and that has sort of coincided with the mixture of the turnover of staff we've had. The staff we've got at the moment are the core staff who we are happy with. We're not looking to employ anyone else, and they've all experienced a lack of work over the last few weeks. They were all hoping to be out driving around Cheltenham selling ice cream by now. So it's also a wake-up call for them to know that these rules are taken very seriously. So you said they are an extension of us. When they go out on the vans, unless we're following them, you can't be 100% sure what they're doing, but they all know very well now that this is sort of very serious business, and the rules are there for a reason. So that's why I actually took the staff out with me when we did a lot of this training, so they know what's expected of them, and we're confident that we've put a plan together that these complaints won't sort of be repeated. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll read the resolution. Oops. Oh, I do beg your pardon. Yes.
I've been doing what we've been encouraged to do, Chair, which is to read all the information and reflect. And I'm conflicted. Oh, sorry.
Just thinking, the applicant has had his final right of reply, and so I'm thinking now, if I ask...
I'm not going to say anything that's going to shock him. But fine, I can...
He speaks and then they can have a right of reply.
Okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah, that sounds equitable, thank you. I think you should take this as a wake-up call, because it's very serious coming before the licensing committee with some of the information I've got in front of me. I'm conflicted in that, on the one hand, I've got the officer's report, on the other hand, I've heard what you've had to say, and I'm convinced by what you've had to say. I appreciate that you have taken this really seriously, and you have got to. Your drivers have got to as well. So I'm really pleased that you're having them read and sign to say they understand what is expected of them, because that's critical for this, I think. So I'm very pleased that you're doing that. That's a real, for me, a big plus. I would like something about a safeguarding policy to be put in at some point, or in the conditions or somewhere, because that isn't there, but you've offered it. So I think that's something that's worth thinking about. But yeah, don't want to say no, don't want to say yes. I'm conflicted. Am I allowed to abstain? But I just think you are taking this really seriously, and I applaud you for that. So well done.
Well, based on the fact that someone has now spoken again, you still need the right of reply. So if there's anything you wish to say now, you're welcome to do so. I'll now read the resolution. We can, at 1.5.1, approve the application because members are satisfied that the location is suitable and it complies with policy, or refuse the application because it does not comply with the provision of the street trading policy, and or they are not satisfied the location is suitable on the basis of objections received. So I think we'll go, do I believe we're using the voting system? Oh, going all posh. So can we vote on 1.5.1, approve the application?
Has everybody done?
Right, I've got that.
Yes, would you like me to read the result?
Oh, yes.
So we've got 3 for 1.5.1 and 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you very much. So that has been approved. So we don't need to go to 1.5.2. So, yes, pleased to tell you that your application has been approved, and officers will meet up with you or give you the information you need and the regulations and everything that we hope you'll stay by. And as other members have said, this is a little bit of a wake-up call because there have been a number in the last few. But at the same time, I do know, and I know of one name in particular that's always moaning about ice cream vans. That you know, people that are unreasonable, and you're going to get those. It's life. Whatever you do in life, there will be someone that doesn't like you doing it. But at the same time, you know what the regulations are, and officers will help you with that. Okay, then, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, he's going.
So shall I do that bit? So agenda item 5, Local Government Act 1972, exempt information, that in accordance with section 100A(4) Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining agenda item, as it is likely that in view of the nature of the business to be transacted, or the nature of proceedings. If members of the public are present, there will be disclosed to them exempt information as defined in paragraph 1 and 2, part 1, schedule 12A, Local Government Act 1972, namely paragraph 1, information relating to an individual, and paragraph 2, information which is likely to reveal the identity of an individual. Can I have a show of hands on that, please? That is carried. And so we'll say goodbye to members of the public and the live stream.